Paul, roll the props into place.
Yeah, okay, Jerry.
Irv, give me a focus. That's good. Now go in for a close-up.
Boom operator, get ready. Okay, let it down.
Give him a 1-minute cue.
Okay, Frank, full synchro.
This is Channel 43.
And in 3, 2, 1.
You're on the air.
Hi, sports fans. This is Sid Jaffe, your sports editor at the Sports Desk, with a review of the highlights and exciting action that made the top story.
My name is Ranger Andy, and I've traveled all around, and I am writing you a song about the things I've found. I'll sing about the...
Hello, Goober's Corner. It's Mr. Goober speaking. What's that? You want some pickled peppers? Why, sure, we got pickled.
So here we have the weather board that tells us we had an insane beauty today. And it was. It was poetic. It was magnificent. It's kind of nice. All the crocuses are up. Even the...
It was just a 1-hour car ride from Connecticut. The 1939 New York World's Fair brought visitors face to face with the future. Unbeknownst to them, a magic tube on display at the RCA exhibit would change their lives forever. But few people would have television sets nearly a decade into World War later, when television airwaves from New York and Philadelphia penetrated the Connecticut skies. Impromptu audiences formed in front of department stores to see the live images from miles away.
Our family got television back in 1947, the same year, the same month I was born, back in April 1947. And from what my dad said, it was one of the first 3 sets in Fairfield County. And the reason he had access to a set was that he worked at General Electric in Bridgeport, which was one of the early pioneers. And he recalled how when they first put the aerial up outside, strangers used to stop by on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon and ring the doorbell and ask if they could come in and see the TV set.
The new medium's high wire acts were so curious they were banned in towns like Hamden. It was feared the ungainly antennas would wreak havoc during hurricanes. The fears soon subsided as the Connecticut television picture came into focus. In a race to start the premier New England television station, a former macaroni salesman, Aldo D. Dominicus, teamed up with Postmaster Patrick Good and other investors. They fired up the state's first station, WNHC Channel 6, on June 15, 1948. At first, it was a simple test pattern department store salesmen could use to demonstrate their sets. Like many of Fairfield County's viewers, Michael Collins had his aerial aimed at the Big Apple. It wasn't until the aerial went down during storms that he saw Channel 6, thus making WNHC, to him at least, the bad weather station. Those who had their rabbit ears trained on Channel 6, the first Dumont Network affiliate, could see the best of all the networks. Soon the station took its first wobbly steps toward its own local programming. Expert radio announcers became TV novices. Programming included Bontempi's cooking, which made both audiences and the advertising sales staff salivate. But everyone knew the way to the viewer's heart was really through the little ones. Kit Doodle, played by Kit Adler, spent 25 minutes each night bringing art and music to children. Channel 6 clown Joey Russell reminisces about his show.
Happy? Oh, we were so proud. He was the #1 rated show all New England, and he had some great ones at the time. There's The Last of the Dolls. We sold so many of these. This is exactly what he looked like, with the old top hat, which I still have, the red wig, the blue jacket with the tail with the wires up, red and white trousers, and a polka dot shirt.
Other children's show entertainers rocketed to the scene in the 60s. Bill Beamish as Space Commander 8 took over for a shipwrecked Admiral Jack show.
hey, you've just lost an admiral. You're not going to, you're not going to put on another admiral or a sailor or whatever. So, hey, what's current now? What's happening in 1966, really, that is really more up to date, let's say, than the sailor or the cowboy? Hey, what's space is what we're talking about now. So, Space Commander 8, okay, you've got Channel 8 in there, you've got space, you've got a title for him, very similar to an admiral. So within a couple of weeks, we had on the air a whole new personality with the same show, essentially, same cartoons and all that, but now it's no longer an admiral, now it's, hey, we're up to date now, we're Space Commander 8.
But soon, Space Commander 8 would also crash and burn. The show area baby boomers remember most is The Friends of Mr. Goober with Mike Warren. The character was a janitor and later a proprietor of a general store.
He was Grandpa. He's Grandpa, who had time to play with the kids and wasn't, nose to the grindstone, out earning a living and all of that. I hope the paper boy left my paper. Oh, there it is, right over there. Left it right on my chair. He's a good little fella. I really appreciate him. Always leaves the Goober Gazette right there in my rocker. I always look forward to this. Yes, it's always a joy to look over the Goober Gazette each day. You learn so many things, Oh, yeah, just last week I was reading right here in the Gazette about a fella who says you must never pay to see a fish dance. Says it's usually a flop. Oh, it was fun. First of all, it was something I wanted to do so badly. And when I got on, I was on the air. I thought I'd died and gone to heaven.
The Spuds, who became the couch potatoes of the 90s, were also having fun. A local newspaper coined their newfound affliction, telesquat.
Well, Dennis, it's certainly nice to meet you. I started here back in 1948, and I watch you on TV every night. It's incredible.
Oh, thanks. I imagine it's changed a lot. You look at our set here with the different backgrounds and with all the different camera angles we have now.
Incredible.
We've got to keep everything in mind. Color, obviously, is so important, and
That's
and lighting.
incredible.
And right over here, of course, is where I do the sports when I'm anchoring, and we have a monitor here.
Many times I came in here, I used to be playing racquetball and come in with my shorts on, as long as they could just see me with my shirt and tie.
I imagine the business has changed a little bit since 1948.
Well, let's go up and see your sports desk.
All right, let's go. Let me show you where it is. Follow me.
Fine.
You actually were inventing the business as you went along in those days.
Exactly. And everything was typed. We had to type everything and read it, and the signs were made, handmade signs.
Hi, sports fans. This is Sid Jaffe, your sports editor at the Sports Desk, with a review of the highlights and exciting action that made the top stories this week in the world of sports.
Well, Jackie, of course, the first question anyone would probably ask you is, what are the chances for the Brooklyn Dodgers for 1954?
Sid, they look very good. We have a ball club that perhaps won't hit as high as we hit last year, but we have Don Newcomb coming back out of the service, and we have a young pitching staff that should reach its peak in a year or 2 years. And I think they will offset the fact that perhaps Ferrello and myself and Snyder and Campanella won't have the years that we had last year. But
I interviewed Jackie Robinson, Rocky Marciano, in front of the New Haven City Hall. He was very pleasant. He was here on a fundraiser. There was a detective that I think was shot and killed in New Haven, and we interviewed him in front of City Hall in New Haven. And my ex-boss, Aldo, I don't know, he was trying to interfere with me, and I was pushing him away. Get out of here.
Hi, Aldo. Well, Rocky, I know that Al will get you in training before you start training. And you'll probably be going up to Grosinger soon, is that right?
That's right. I'm leaving right after the benefit tonight. I hope to get up to camp sometime tomorrow and start in my hard work.
Well, those were some of the highlights from the world of sports this week, as reported from the Sports Desk. This is Sid Jaffe, your sports editor, inviting you to join me again next week for more of the highlights of the week from the world of sports.
Channel 6, WNHC, was the only show in town, thanks to a government-imposed freeze that lasted until 1953. Eventually, the FCC approved an experiment called UHF. Television stations with less powerful frequencies could get into the act. There was only one problem. Most TVs weren't equipped with UHF tuners.
I can remember, let me see, I would have been 6 years old. I can remember the TV repairman asking my mom if she wanted to have UHF so she could see this local Bridgeport station. And She asked how much it was, and when the TV man said $100, she said no.
New station owners, however, were optimistic that somehow their shows would ultimately reach your living rooms.
This is Channel 43. Hi there, friends. This is Wally Dunlap. Speaking for the whole gang of us here at WICC. We're all pretty proud of our plant up here on Booth Hill. We'd like to have you see more of it. So why don't you step right through that television screen and come with me.
The new Bridgeport TV station was prepared to reach great heights with the technology despite its shortcomings.
You'll see you'd have to tune the dial here, and it was very difficult to tune in a station. It's like a radio dial. And say if you wanted Channel 43, you'd get the perfect picture, but you wouldn't have a voice, and then when you turn the dial a little bit to try to get the voice, the picture would become snowy.
Here in the newsroom, editor Bill Whalen and his staff prepare over 30 newscasts a day for radio and television. If it happens in or around Bridgeport, these men will know about it. And if they know about it, so will you. In only a few moments, what they are doing now will result in this.
This is Bill Whalen speaking for the WICC TV News Service.
Sports fans will immediately recognize Manning Slater. Manning, too, deserts his executive post each evening to go before the cameras and report on the world of sports. Or Mary Walker with tips on getting the most efficiency and pleasure from your kitchen. And the children. Not until WICC TV went on the air was it possible for the young people of this area to participate in television programs. The poise and personality they develop in this sort of activity is invaluable, and the pleasure the grown-ups get out of watching them comes from programs you can find only on a hometown television station.
A chorus of tap dancers, however, could not put off the inevitable. A 1960 survey showed only 32 TVs with UHF adapters were sold in the area.
The news director of WICC Radio, where I was later a news person in the 70s, described how in the 60s he had gone to a party in Westport. And there was this gentleman there, and Chris spoke to him, Westport resident, and Chris said, by the way, we have a television station, WICC TV. And the guest said, well, what channel is that? And Chris said, Channel 43. And the guest, not being facetious, but just not knowing, said with a straight face, oh, here in Westport, we don't receive any of those UFO channels.
Eventually, VHF competition from New York was too much, even for the UFO's biggest stars.
If you were to drop in person at our studios, you might find the irrepressible Bob Crane before the cameras. Earlier, we saw Bob in his more serious role as a program executive. Here we see that as long as there's an audience around, Bob will be the personality more people listen to on their radios every morning than any other performer on the air. Now, Bob makes many new friends on Channel 43.
One of Crane's old friends is still with WICC Radio as a traffic reporter, Morgan Kaolian. He started as the television station's art director and remembers Crane, who later went on to become the star of TV's Hogan's Heroes.
Bob Crane always said, Morgan, he said, you're going to come with me if I ever make it in Hollywood. And he never called me.
And no one called the station when its owner made a fantastic offer.
He subsequently put a sign on the television screen. Anyone watching this, call in immediately and you will receive $100, no questions asked. And he didn't get one call, which led us to believe that we had a very, very small audience.
Soon the station would go off the air, and all remnants of its existence, save this film, went up in smoke during a spectacular fire in 1966. In 1953, WATR, a UHF station in Waterbury, also went on the air, atop Meriden Mountain. Today, a fallen TV tower and rumors of perilous mountaintop programs remain as legend. For a while, the low-budget station and its tower survived. Eventually, it gave way to a taller tower and Channel 20 WTXX. Connecticut UHF station Channel 30 debuted earlier than its counterparts, but had a more successful strategy.
Channel 30 would give away UHF converters and actually would send technicians out to folks' homes and have them set up the UHF antenna and the converter to help them watch Channel 30.
The station's programmers had to be equally creative to get on the air.
We had to operate from Rattlesnake Mountain. There's a train that would come through New Britain every day, not purposely to bring a news film to us, but to drop a film off while the train is still moving. And they pick up the film, they bring it into to us to edit, and then it would be rushed up to the mountain along with the other film. No matter what the weather, it'd be in the middle of a snowstorm, we had to get the film up there, and somehow we managed to get there, and we did. We stayed on the air all those years.
They really weren't sure that TV was going to make it, and they built this building as a TV studio and a radio studio, but just in case, they wanted to make sure that they could sell this building and it could be used as a warehouse.
There would be no need. The Hartford Courant wrote, WKNB-TV is one of the most liberal stations in terms of providing opportunity for local talent.
Hi, I'm Johnny Palmer, and I've been chosen to introduce you to some of the members of our television family. Most of the performers are rehearsing for their shows, so we can drop in on them and chat for a while. Ralph Kenner.
John, getting ready for a couple of things on Digest for tomorrow morning.
Digest, one of my favorite morning television shows.
Hello there, man of many guises.
Well, who's that?
It's me, Fuzz, right over here, John.
Hi, Fuzz.
Oh, boy, we're getting ready, you know. What we do, we stir up some super cartoons, then we use a dash of Mr. Rainershine, there he is, and that's how we make fun on Digest every weekday morning at 9 o'clock.
Be looking for you, Fuzz.
I think the talented people that I remember most were the people I worked with. I mentioned Phil Hale. Phil was a very clever guy, very witty, and had a great way with words.
Hey, this is Phil Hale. On the Phil Hale Show, Monday through Saturday.
He was a really clever guy, and when I heard him do his show, I said, I think this is the place I'd like to work at, if they hire a guy like Phil.
Hey, Phil, do you know what a V-1 is? Oh, yes, that's the granddaddy of all the modern rockets. And the exciting story of the V-1, Missiles from Hell, is going to be on the early show. You got that one right. Now, do you know what ICBM stands for? Oh, yes. I can't be mistaken. Say, that's pretty clever.
The early show, of course, consisted of feature films from Hollywood. But B, for instance, if it was a war film, we had to get Johnny to look like a soldier in combat. And he was good at that. He was a good actor.
Say, kids, ever feel like really blowing your lid? Well, that's what this little cat does. And you know what makes her madder than anything? Pushing her tail, like this. See? She blows her lid. Put her head back on, and she's ready to go again. She's free in Nabisco Rice Honeys. Now, would you like to see a lid-blowing duet? This little dog blows his lid, too. Get him in Nabisco Wheat Honeys. And if you feel mad enough to blow your lid, just have a bowl full of Nabisco Wheat Honeys or Nabisco Rice Honeys. That'll sweeten you up, because honeys are two-way sweeter. They have sugar and honey. And honeys don't just taste great, they give you lots of energy, because sugar and honey are great for energy. Try them. And don't forget, there's a free blow-your-lid cat in Nabisco Rice Honeys and a free blow-your-lid dog in Nabisco Wheat Honeys. Look for these pictures. And when you want some honeys, do what Buffalo Bee does. Say, honeys are sweeter. The return of Tex Travel. Actually, it's a mystery how we got out here, Tex. Well, I thought, long as we're on the subject of movies, I'd ride in and kind of tell you folks about our Bar 30 Western Theater, which we show the finest rip-snorting stories from the Old West. Well, Tex, I ain't a hankering for no trouble, so I'll be sure to steer myself to the TV set this Sunday at high noon. We'll see you.
We didn't know we were pioneers. I guess pioneers don't know they're pioneers when they're doing it at the time. So we were just happy to be working with the new technology, which was changing all the time, and we were doing the best we could. And yes, it was fun in those days.
Say, look who's here, the king of diamonds himself, Bill Savage. Hi, Bill.
How are you, John?
Why are you so busy at Savage Jewelers, Bill?
Well, you know, we're the great redemption center of downtown Hartford.
Savage Jewelers, a redemption center?
Yes, sir.
You redeem trading stamps?
No, sir. We redeem greenbacks, just like these.
The best kind.
That's
How does
right.
the system work, Bill?
Well, you buy your gift, and every week you send us one of these greenbacks.
Right.
That's all there is to it. And if you don't like it, at the end of a year or 6 months, POMG means you get your greenbacks back.
That's wonderful, Bill. Bill, do you really stand on your head for the people?
Do we stand on our head?
I
We
think he's
certainly
going to do it. Here's what we're talking about. Savage Jewelers, 35 Asylum Street, 35 seconds from Maine in downtown Hartford. And... yeah, there's a girl who has everything. And you know, downtown Hartford has everything, too.
As a matter of fact, it always has.
You've been watching the Big Kofsky Spelling Bee on Channel 30.
John Just, who, as you know, won the spelling bee, competed against the winners in the other grades, and John got to the 26th level to win, and here he is now. John Just of 186 Greenwood Street, New Britain. Congratulations, John. How's it feel?
Well, it's just great to be the winner of the spelling bee. I feel like I don't know what to say.
This has been a WNBC studio production.
Guess who? Why, it's me again, Colonel Clown. This was Colonel Clown. This was the Colonel, which went to Channel 30 after we left Channel 8. The good Lord blessed me with really how to handle children. If the child was a problem, it was no problem. I don't know how. I would always have some little way to make him the guardian or whatever it might be. This was old Colonel Clown. My goodness, that's a long time ago. Wowee. Look closely now. Every weekday morning, it's Romper Room with Miss Jane, followed by Kukla and Ollie. Yeah, it was a different world in those days. I don't know about now. See, they get away from personalities now. All they want is the cartoons, because it's much cheaper.
The Colonel is most nostalgic about the happy days at Channel 8.
Channel 8, New Haven, Connecticut, it was beautiful. The old, now they're major league now. In those days, we took over an old funeral home. And I came in, I was so proud to get a dressing room. Had a nice dressing room, except in the middle was a hole. And the floor was slanted. Didn't know anything about it. After 88 weeks, we moved. And somebody said, by the way, are you aware of your dressing room, what it was? I said, I don't know. You ready for this? It was the blood draining room for the funeral home. That's what it was. Oh, yeah. Happy to Clown was every day, Monday through Friday, 8:30 in the morning, 30 children. After the first 3 or 4 weeks, we had a waiting list of 9 months before you could get on to be on the show. We sang songs. We sang Happy Sticks, which made everybody feel good. We had a prayer at the end. Our prayer to you, dear Lord, please guide us in our way. We made a triangle nose. In those days, Channel 8 was owned by Triangle Publications, if you remember them. And so it came up that everything was going to be into the triangle. Makeup is ready. They're hollering 5 minutes. Mr. Russell, quietly, as one more thing, the hat.
At the height of the Connecticut television boom, the Hartford Times said, "Never in the history of the world has a new industry gone so far, so fast." The new kid on the block was the powerful Channel 3 in Hartford. WTIC-TV was prepared to use its power to muscle into Hartford area homes. WTIC, known for its radio prowess, and radio star Bob Steele boldly entered the fray in 1957.
And that's about it. Until next time, this is Bob Steele, thanking you for listening and bidding you all adios, sayonara, shalom, auf Wiedersehen, take your choice. You know, radio has always been easy for me, really, but television, something else, quite different. I'll never forget the first time I was on television. It was it was a near disaster for me.
We needed a lot of things to build this station with, and I want to show you all about it on a film that we have ready for you now. The film is about ready to roll, I trust. I hope that I don't have to get off any more jokes. Perhaps I can...
I was in a studio with maybe 100 people.
That's wonderful. A lot of things have... this is one of the greatest moments of my life, friends. I am out of place with the teleprompter and all.
When I made a mistake, it was twice as embarrassing as it would have been normally. It happened, the teleprompter, which I'd never seen before, went haywire.
There is the tower, at any rate. You can see it, I trust, and it's all leading up to the test pattern that you've been seeing for the last several days. I'm very sorry, but we had to get away on some kind of foot, and had to be the wrong one here. But nonetheless, you are watching the tower as it goes up. Those fellows are not acrobats from the circus at all. They are serious-minded workmen who are doing their best to get that thing up there. They're having more trouble than I'm having right now, as a matter of fact. But they came through. That's the main thing.
Well, it was just downright embarrassing. But for some reason, it turned out all right. I mean, people began to laugh.
Those things are called trenches. The things that I wish I was in right now. And now, if I'm not in a spot, I don't know what I am in. I'll tell you that right now.
Soon, the independent channel became a CBS affiliate, getting everything that came with it: feature films, news credibility, and reputation. It also continued a Connecticut tradition of children's programming.
Good morning, boys and girls, and welcome to the After Breakfast Show here in Joyville with Oliver Orbit, Dandelion, Julia Lucius O'Toole, our lovely belle of the Old South, Marilyn Monrovia, me, Brian F. Thorpe, Chickaberry, and of course the mayor of our town, Hap Richards.
Well, hiya, kids, and a happy start of a new day to all of you.
Okay, so what do we do now?
Well, fellas, before we close, let me say that it looks like the start of a nice quiet day here in Joyville now that you've taken up checkers.
Well, I must say it is quite wistful.
Yeah, I almost went back to the pad.
Well, sure, and the boys have the right idea, I must admit.
Well, fine. And let's hope that this keeps up for many days to come.
Hostess fruit pies are wonderful for desserts, snacks, and lunchbox treats, too. Always delicious because the Hostess bakers always make the little bake shop way.
It's time for the Ranger Andy Show.
My name is Ranger Andy, and I've traveled all around. And I am writing you a song about the things I've found. I'll sing about the mysteries of animals galore, and hope to tell you many things you never knew before. Come along, sing the song. On the chorus we will sing it loud and strong. I hope that you'll enjoy it with your family and your friends, and sing with me the longest song, the song that never ends.
Hi, friends. Welcome to the Ranger Station. We're going to sing Old Ching Dum Diddle, a song that never ends, and I hope you'll all join on the chorus, and you folks at home, too. Here we go, the chorus first. Ching Dum Diddle and a hi-dee-dee, sing along, my friend. Ching Dum Diddle, sing along with me, the song that never ends.
Orville Andrews, the original Ranger Andy, had successors who continued the tradition. For a 5-year-old Anthony Armand Terzi, the Ranger Station was a magical place.
As soon as the floor director said, "Okay, everybody stand by, and we're going to have you walk through the door, just follow our direction," I got really nervous. And the reason I got really nervous is because I knew in a couple of minutes I was going to be the pledge leader on the show.
Well, hi, we have quite a big group today. How many troops are here? A whole pack? A whole den? A whole pack? A lot of blue. And you know what? Just one young lady. How'd you manage that? It's usually one boy with a lot of girls.
I don't know.
Did you plan this to be with all these boys?
Mm-mm.
Okay, we'll meet everybody today a little bit later.
Jim asked everybody in the audience, there was quite a few Cub Scout packs that day, to introduce themselves and where they're from, and I got through that part okay, and then he said, "And now it's time for our Pledge of Allegiance." And our pledge leader today is Anthony.
Anthony?
Anthony, come stand up
Is
on
our
the blue
pledge
dot,
leader
I think is
on
what
the blue
he said.
dot, and what's your
And there was
full
this
name?
blue dot on the floor that was pretty big,
And how old
but
are
it looked smaller and smaller as I approached it because I knew I had to stand on it and I was afraid I was going to fall. And I mean, it was terror. And I just placed my hand over my heart like this, doing the Pledge of Allegiance, and everything went okay. It was great.
Channel 3, Hartford. What in the World? Presented by the Connecticut Light and Power Company, the Hartford Electric Light Company, and the United Illuminating Company, the electric companies of Connecticut.
Tonight, we're going to visit the United States, and we're going to do it in the very good company of John F. Shereshevsky, director of the Rumsey Hall School in Washington, Connecticut, Ina Bradley of Westport, Dr. William McDonald of the Yale School of Architecture, and Charles Cunningham, director of Hartford's Wadsworth Atheneum. Well, friends on the panel, we're going to find out what you know about the United States tonight, and we're going to see how I can do for the jackpot. 10 points for every correct answer. If you miss, the jackpot gets the 10 points. What about this abacus? How about that?
I'm supposed to say which it is?
Whether it's analog or digital.
That's an analog computer. All right, digital.
Jerry, we can take 3 out of 4 on this. Well, I'm sorry you got stumped on that one, panel. Who's the high man tonight? Charlie, it's you. 40 plus what, 70, 90, 110. Is there anything left over from previous sittings?
Plus 35.
And who is going to get the $145 you make your check out?
The Hamden Children's Center.
Hamden Children's Center, delighted. We thank John F. Shereshevsky, Ina Bradley, Bill McDonald, and Charles Cunningham. This is John Dando. Good night.
It's Close Up on Sports, and here is Bob Steele.
Thanks, Joe, and howdy, sports fans and everybody. How are you tonight? Over at the Central Gym in New Britain, the Central Connecticut Blue Devils will face St. Michael's in the championship game of the Central Connecticut Tournament. The Blue Devils have had a strong tourney performance out of sophomore Howie Dickenman, the workhorse rebounder for the Blue Devils. He had 24 rebounds in Central's semifinal win over Norwich last night, 116-85. A third state team, the Fairfield Stags, will be shooting for a championship tomorrow night when the Stags meet Canisius in the final of the Queen City Classic in Buffalo, New York. I'm afraid we're just a little bit mixed up on that tape, but that figures. The big news is that Nicholas has come in to tie Player and Palmer. We have some scores here. I'm going to bring you eventually here. I'm sure it's going to materialize. If not, I'll get a gun here.
Steele survived his 10 years in television in spite of his self-effacing style and returned exclusively to radio, where he became a legend in the industry.
And that's it for tonight. George Ehrlich will be with you tomorrow night. In fact, George will be on Close Up from now on. So long, and the best of everything to all of you in 1967.
Here is the latest forecast of the Travelers Weather Service, brought to you by the Hartford Electric Light Company. Only electricity costs so little, yet does so much to help you and your family live better electrically. And now, the latest forecast in the making by meteorologist Jim McDonald.
Good evening. Well, this wasn't a very nice way to start out the Easter weekend, was it? The storm, which was out in the Midwest yesterday, was moving towards the northeast. We thought it might pass up through New England, but it then started moving a little to the south of these. Then, after midnight, we expect some clearing skies to come in from the west. Chances of snow will be diminishing to about 3 out of 10 after midnight. Well, we still have some light snow falling here in Hartford. The wind is from the northeast, averaging 10 to 20 miles an hour. Temperature is now falling. It's 33 degrees. And the humidity up over 90%, with pressure falling, and it is 29.8 inches.
When you got out of school, that's what you did. You went home and turned on the TV and watched Connecticut Bandstand.
Won't you let me take you on a sea cruise? Ooh-wee, baby, ooh-wee, baby, ooh-wee.
was just the most terrific experience. You know, when you see this on TV, it's one thing, but then to go there and actually be in the studio, and of course on TV everything looks bigger than it is in person, so it's considerably smaller when you got there, but there was an electricity, a magnetism. It was really very exciting. They had a live group singing that day. Well, actually they didn't sing in those days. They played the records and they moved their lips, and they called it lip syncing, and they went and signed autographs afterwards, and it was really a very exciting experience. There was a group of kids who turned out to be what were known as regulars, and they turned out to be personalities. They would do dances and record hops with Jim Gallant. They would go to Long Island, around the Connecticut area. They'd sign autographs, they'd dance, and they themselves became personalities. Jim Gallant, of course, was a star of Connecticut Bandstand. The Payola scandals broke in New York, and they were really after Alan Freed at that point. Payola being disc jockeys taking money for playing certain records. There was an article in the paper, I guess the Payola scandal broke on a weekday, and the next day Jim Gallant was gone.
Records, turntables, cameras, and all. Complete with a request which now include drawings sent in by listeners. I have a lot of fun televising or simulcasting the Dial Dunlap shows.
Also in 1961, popular Johnny Palmer became a magic personality with Hartford County's teenagers. Johnny, who has been with Channel 30 for 6 years, became master of ceremonies of Dance Time, a program designed especially for teenagers. And during the summer months, Dance Time was moved to the ballroom of Lake Compounce. Each week, hundreds of youngsters enjoyed dancing to records and meeting famous recording stars. In 1962, Johnny won the title of the most popular TV personality in the country in a contest conducted by TV Movie Screen magazine.
Actually, it was the Brad Davis Show was the correct title, but nobody ever called it that. It was called the Milk Show because it was sponsored by the 2,300 dairy farmer members of Connecticut Milk for Health. It was a dance show. It was like a Dick Clark show. Kids would come in and they'd dance. I'd have guest stars. I had them all, Bobby Vinton, the Four Seasons.
The New York Rock and Roll Ensemble, and I predict this will be one of the big groups in America in 1969. I heard this record for the first time 2 days ago. I think it's going to be a big one for Leslie Gore. I Can't Make It Without You.
What is there to hope and dream for if I cannot hope you care?
After Channel 3 won the Hartford CBS affiliation, Channel 18 experimented with pay TV. It was the country's first subscription station. In 1962, RKO hired a young man named Charles Osgood to run it. Years later, Osgood explained how the set-top box worked.
A printer would actually come down, you could hear it, well, ponk, and it would print the price of the program that you had watched on this piece of paper tape and record it magnetically on the magnetic tape inside. Once a month, we'd send a billing code. You went to your television box, entered in this billing code, pushed a button, a trap door opened up, and a piece of paper tape would waft out, listing the charges of everything that you had watched during the month. We had no way of adding them up, however. You had to add them up. And then we also sent you a little set of instructions as to how you could take advantage of discounts. If you watched more than $10 worth of programs in a month, you would get a $2 discount. If you watched more than $15 worth of programs, you would get a $3 discount. So you were supposed to enter in those discounts and then add it all up and send us the money. One of the reasons that I found myself available for work only a few months after that was that nobody sent in the money.
Theaters and networks fought the pay TV effort all the way. The Hartford Courant said RKO lost $11 million before abandoning the technology and eventually the station. A group of citizens applied for a license reserved for education, thus creating Connecticut Public Television in 1962. Since then, the station has provided a steady stream of programs and documentaries carrying out its public service mission.
The president called for peaceful coexistence as the best hope for peace in Asia.
He also warned North Vietnam that the United States will stand firm in Vietnam.
I want the communists...
It was crude, but we didn't know it. We thought we were doing a great service.
In Connecticut news, Orchard Street in New Haven was the scene of another shooting today. Moments later, police officers apprehended a suspect. The victim, wounded in the abdomen by a single shot, was identified as 23-year-old Jacqueline Wallace. She was taken by ambulance to Yale New Haven Hospital, where she remains on the danger list tonight. Detective Captain William Holohan told Channel 8 News that the shot followed an argument. Officers have not yet recovered the gun.
I was the weather person for a while, certainly the news anchor for 15 years, and the morning show where I was almost but not quite a clown. And I enjoyed every one of them, every facet of it. We even did an on the street, man in the street show outside the studios every night.
I've done it all in this business. As a matter of fact, I did some sports. I started off as an announcer here off camera. I did some sports on camera. My first full-time job was replacing a fellow named Barry Behrens, who was pretty much of a legend in the market.
Good evening, everyone.
If you ever wanted to say, look, let me find an anchorman, somebody who looked good on camera, who looked impressive on camera, authoritative-looking individual, a man with a deep, bassy voice who could captivate an audience, that would be Barry Behrens.
The president also defended his disability agreement with Vice President Nixon. He said Nixon never was acting president during his 3 major illnesses, but that he would have done so if necessary.
WNBC Channel 30.
Before me, on the desk from where I'm speaking, is the beginning of a letter in longhand. It stops abruptly on the 5th line, apparently ended by the screams of fire. Police and firemen remained. Blackened walls, black uniforms that once were white, hospital corridors and 4 inches of water. Tragedy. Unknown, how many injured? Dead, I know of at least 15. This is Dick O'Brien on the 9th floor at Hartford Hospital.
All of Connecticut's television stations took strong editorial stances for righteous causes, but few editorialists were as respected as the world-renowned Dr. Albert Burke of Channel 6 and later Channel 30.
He said he could not believe that anyone would be foolish enough to start a nuclear war over Berlin or anything else. This implied, of course, that reasonable and rational men would hesitate to loose on the world the effects of such a war. The trouble is that reasonable and rational men do not always have the final say in such matters.
The stations followed their radio roots in the coverage of political campaigns and elections.
All right, Dave, and in Simsbury for the presidential side of the ticket, Stevenson, 948, Eisenhower, 2,809. For the United States Senate, Dodd, 1,336, Bush, 2,365, McLeavy, 12, Stevenson, 21.
1,965. In
Charlie,
the 8th district. Dokes leads
this is
over
such a
Smith
bore. Can't we have
by
something else?
2,242 to...
The local TV documentary took viewers beyond the surface of a news story.
All over northern and western Connecticut, during the early hours of August 19th, persons wakened to danger and disaster, to destruction and to death. This was a different kind of flood from what Connecticut had experienced before. It was a flash flood. In rivers, in brooks, in creeks, water came up as you watched. Water raced in every gully. Water sluiced across every surface. Down from the dark hills it came, and down from the dark skies. 5 days after the flood had hit, the WKNV Flood Telethon went on the air from the studios in West Hartford, presenting the biggest array of top-flight entertainment artists ever assembled on a single television program. The troupe from the Oakdale Musical Theater came up to do their bit after the telethon had been launched by Senator Bush and Eddie Fisher. Eddie's opening number was You Gotta Have Heart, and the people had hearts to...
Good evening, this is George Thompson. Several weeks ago, photographer Jack Youngs and I traveled aboard an El Al jetliner to Israel. We spent 2 weeks there filming the big cities and the small villages, military installations, historic and biblical sites, and Israeli life in general. We toured the country from Metula in the north to Eilat in the south, from Tel Aviv on the Mediterranean to the Allenby Bridge on the Jordan River. And of course, we took a close look at the capital city itself, Jerusalem.
Just how fast the big top went up was captured on movie film by the late Robert Honorado of Plainville, who had taken his young son and his 8mm movie camera to the circus that day. For the first time on television, then, here is that film.
There was an explosion sort of a thing, and a quarter of the tent was gone with this one flash. And I got to the railing and got the children over, and I got into this surge of people that literally took me with them towards the exit. And I managed to get back to my wife. She handed the baby to me over the railing. We got her over, and I kept saying to the family, we're going to make it. We're going to make it. And we did. We got out, and I noticed people who were looking for loved ones were unconsciously blocking the exit of people who were coming out. And I started to direct people to open up the exit so other people could get out. And I then finally got my family clear of everything. They were bringing in, the elephants were starting to push in these wagons of water. And I immediately, when I got my family to one side, we all knelt down, and we thanked God.
Channel 3, Hartford.
We started a weekly program that was really aimed at urban life called What's Happening. And we had co-hosts named Brad Davis and John Sablon, both of whom are still in Hartford. Brad's a morning talk show host, and John is with Channel 30. And they were the reporters, and we did a lot of very interesting subjects.
We came from different backgrounds. I came from the news department. He came from the dance show.
The entertainment.
And we just didn't know, couldn't fathom how it would, what kind of blend, what kind of meshing there would be, if any.
But it really worked. It worked out. It worked out very well for both of us.
We did a show called The 9-Year-Old in Norfolk Prison, and this was I think he was about a 30-year-old janitor, a retarded man, who had been accused and convicted of murdering an elderly woman, stabbing her to death. We proved that he couldn't have done it, and he was released.
It was probably the most meaty material that we ever went after because it dealt with life and death.
You really did it, didn't you?
No, honest. That's the guys on the show.
Somebody told you to say that you didn't do it, didn't they?
Nobody told me nothing. That's the truth. I never did nothing like that. Never.
By 1964, the all-channel law forced manufacturers to produce TVs with UHF tuners, bringing a sigh of relief to surviving UHF stations. Technology was the great equalizer. Soon cable would further level the playing field, but first videotape would change the face of local TV.
I never got used to videotape. The performance level dropped about, I don't know, maybe 20-25% when it was tape. I don't know why that would be, but there was some kind of psychological thing. When it was live, you could be, the best, and who knew the difference, because there was no proof. So you felt good about what you were doing. As long as you felt good and you felt you were communicating, well, you wanted to come back again the next day. When tape came in, I found myself picking at this and picking at that.
In my mind, TV was destroyed when videotape came on the scene, because now you do it over and over again. The live commercials are no more.
George used to walk into a newsroom and say, "This too shall pass." He loved doing that. He had seen so much come and go, but he also recognized that there had been a sea change that had occurred during his tenure at Channel 8. And in a way, I sort of represented a lot of what had come in, and he represented those folks who had been there before.
Advances in technology and the demands of a more sophisticated viewer created a different brand of programming. At times, they were a-changing.
When you have a man on the moon, when you have the environmental movement, when you have assassinations, there was such a realization that television could take you where things were happening. Television could show you what it's all about. And so it became obvious, I think, to many people at the station level that the public wanted more, not just in quantity, but in quality. And so you saw news departments around the country expanding their news operations.
News became a viable business product now supported by ratings, technology, and news gathering techniques, innovated in part by consultant Al Primo.
Well, when a reporter is live in the studio with his stories, it does give that story and him and the station more credibility. I mean, he was there, he was the eyewitness to the event, and he's back there reporting it directly.
All across the state, news jumped from 15 minutes to half an hour. News went from radio with pictures to reporter-driven stories.
As they headed up to Main Street, the size of the crowds became evident. And a number of times, as the cars crept down Main Street past City Hall and toward Pearl Street, they stopped while Mr. Nixon reached out to shake hands and wave. More than once, he left the car to wade into the throng, greeting some of the estimated 45,000 persons who lined the way.
Channel 3 made the leap by virtue of its 1974 sale to the Post-Newsweek Company, a solid news operation. WFSB News eventually expanded to 90 minutes a day.
News is the most important driving influence of any television station. If you're the #1 news station, you're the #1 station in town.
Not to be left behind, WTNH-8, formerly Channel 6, adopted the Action News format.
Action News, tonight.
We should be seeing a city glowing in the night, but it's simply not. There is no electricity in New York, none to speak of. An incredible happening, one that almost seems to be an impossibility. And here we are, above it all, looking down on other people's misfortunes and just figuring out, well, we're glad it didn't happen to Connecticut. Who knows? Maybe next time the New Yorkers will be flying over us. This is Ken Bennett with the Action Camera, somewhere over New York.
Bob Norman was another popular reporter for Action News 8. So popular, he later became the mayor of East Haven. Another recognizable public face is longtime Channel 8 consumer advocate, now turned motor vehicle emissions promoter, Mike Boguslawski.
You had a problem, you wrote Mike Boguslawski. We investigated it, we resolved it, we went on the air and did that story, and we educated people. Hey, listen, here's what you can do to resolve your own complaint. And I was always I love people. I care about people.
Newsman Tom Monahan has been with Channel 30 since 1965. The old-school journalist is still most satisfied when his reporting affects change, as was the case with Drunken Justice.
Tomorrow night, we'll see how Osuna was able to drink and drive even after the fatalities. And we'll also show you how loopholes in the law may allow him to avoid prosecution on his latest drunk driving charge. I'm Tom Monahan, Connecticut News.
So they changed that law there, and that's one that makes you feel pretty good. It makes you feel pretty good when you take a complicated case and you find out that people are trying to kind of circumvent the law and bend it and so forth. And when lawmakers see the work you did and see a story and then change the law to tighten it up because of that, it makes you feel pretty good.
Let's check in on the lottery numbers tonight. Those of you who are waiting to find out about the whether you...
I took a first television job at Channel 18, which was the old RKO station in Hartford, went to Connecticut Public Television for a year, and then went between Channel 3 and Channel 8 over about a 25-year period before settling here at Channel 61.
People want to get their news and information from people that they are familiar with, people they're comfortable with, people that they've seen year after year.
The anchor stands straddling a fence between what the TV station wants to say and what the audience wants to hear. We have to somehow translate that and not let the station get away with doing stories that are meaningless.
In the 70s, another household name was Dick Galliette.
UConn basketball coach Dom Perno has a new assistant tonight, and that assistant will succeed Jimmy O'Brien, who went on to become a head coach. Howie Dickenman, the former Central Connecticut State College All-America, has been named the new assistant at UConn. 35-year-old Dickenman has been an assistant at Canisius the past 5 years. Dickenman will begin his duties this month at UConn.
I don't think anybody probably in this generation could probably get the recognition that we had in those days. Because, I mean, you saw only, I was the one that did Sports 6 and 11, 5 days a week, week after week, year after year.
Since the early days of television, station promotions boasted about being the most colorful, the best, the finest, but most of all, the first. Channel 30 was New England's first UHF station. The station, once known as WNBC, which stood for New Britain, Connecticut, also called itself Connecticut's most colorful TV station. The longest-running non-news program is produced at Channel 30 by Ivor and Beth Hugh. The children's program, called Ring Around the World, has been around 38 years.
That's a long time, isn't it? My Lord. I don't know where it went.
Hi, Oliver.
It's nice to be back.
Oh, it's wonderful to be back.
And you know, some more people in the Friendly Forest arrived while we were gone.
Really?
Yes.
Aha. Are you going to tell me who they were?
I think Gary arrived here from the Friendly Forest.
Gary did.
Yes, right.
Channel 6 brought the first color program to Connecticut, the 1954 Tournament of Roses Parade. Of course, only invited guests were at the Country Club, where newfangled color TV sets were brought in for the occasion. Exercise with Gloria, featuring Gloria Roeder, was arguably the first exercise program in color and the first featuring a woman. It actually bumped the black and white Jack LaLanne off the Channel 6 schedule. WICC-TV had the first local TV robot, Morgan Kaolian's Gyro the Robot. Gyro appeared in only one episode before being arrested in Times Square for promoting without a license. In the end, WICC claimed to be the poorest station with the fewest viewers. Eventually, it was bought and became the first station to be purchased by a female-controlled board led by Laurel Vlock, herself a longtime host on Channel 8. The honor for the station that took the longest to go on the air goes to Channel 59 in New Haven, which took 42 years before getting started in 1995. Channel 26 in New London was the first east of the Connecticut River. New England's first weatherwoman was Cavell Jobert, a local actress who joined Channel 30 early on.
Hello, this is Cavell Jobert, and I'm here to remind you that starting Monday, July 8th, the weather vane will be seen at a brand new time at 7:10 p.m. immediately following the news of the hour. So join us then, won't you? Remember, the weather vane at a new time, 7:10 p.m. See you then.
$7.50 a show. It was lots of fun. I used to make little marks on the map because I was scared to death of making a mistake, and I thought, well, you know, if I point to Idaho and say Nebraska, I'm in trouble.
The humidity is 55%. The winds are coming from the northwest at 15 miles per hour, and the barometer reading is 29.85 inches and steady.
In 1954, WICC-TV employed Dick Alexander, the state's first black TV entertainer. And John Sablon broke a few barriers when the reporter of mixed black, Hispanic, and Asian background joined Channel 3.
The only thing that I realistically figured that I could do is handle things one story at a time, as I did stories. As other reporters discussed stories with me that had racial or cultural undertones or overtones, I could try to effectuate change there if any was needed in terms of altering attitudes. But I didn't go on a crusade because I had a job to learn to do.
Then there was the memorable Roberto Tirado.
What a day. Wasn't it spectacular? Wasn't yesterday beautiful? I mean, this is the kind of weather we've all been waiting for. Even the weather board attests to that and exclaims declaratively with beautiful spoken language, the dark ages are gone, and that's exactly what happened. It's the first time in a month, and it's been terrible out there. It's been just perpetually shadowy and very gray, and finally all of this beauty, so we can appreciate it even more so. Temperatures right now are kind of heavenly.
Hi, Ruby Viner Railroad Salvage with a famous name CBs at the lowest prices anywhere. Prices from $39.99 and up on names such as Johnson, Panasonic, Graco, Pace, Ray Jefferson, Cobra, Hitachi, Sharp, Exto, many others. Where else could you get the variety of famous names at our low, low prices? First quality, factory guaranteed. Prices start at $39.99 for a full 5-watt, 23-channel CB. Railroad Salvage, Groton, East Windsor, West Haven, Connecticut, and Turners Falls, Massachusetts.
Public service programming provided valuable shows from teleclasses to academic game shows, variety shows, and ongoing kid shows well into the 80s.
In order to get into television at all, you had to be willing to do anything. Can you do this? Oh, sure.
Keep your chin up and you'd find it.
Yeah, right. My neck was sore all day from walking around like this.
Yeah, well, I didn't really mean for you to walk around like that. No, I was just trying to cheer you up.
You were?
Yeah, because you were walking around with such a long face.
Yeah, but this is the only face that I have. I can't help it if it's a little too long.
There you go again, taking what I say at face value.
Well, listen, I don't know what you're talking about, and I don't know how much value my long face has, but it's worth a lot to me, Mr. Goober. I wouldn't leave home without it.
Oh, boy, I'm having trouble reaching you, Hector.
Well, here, let me move a little bit closer to you then.
Hi, everyone. How are you? You know, my name is Captain Bob.
The cabling of Connecticut brought stations like WATR's successor, WTXX, to a larger number of viewers. Initially, they would try to tap the market by offering colorized and R-rated movies, but in the land of steady habits, the naked innovations revealed only limited success.
Welcome, everyone, to the ESPN Sports Center.
George Grand from Channel 8 stepped into cable via ESPN, a Bristol company that revolutionized sports television.
A few minutes ago, 5 million watts of television excitement began spreading across New England. WTIC television, 61. It's all yours now.
In 1984, billed as the only locally owned television station in the state, a new WTIC sent its signal via the airwaves and cable to Connecticut homes. A resilient Bob Steele again kicked off the startup of a station called WTIC. This time, Steele looked right into the camera. Teleprompter be damned.
Tonight, we're making history together. You're watching the live inaugural telecast of America's most powerful television station, WTIC Channel 61, Hartford, Connecticut, USA.
The dawning of a new television era meant the sun had gone down on the old shows and the pioneers of television. But the long shadows they left behind created lasting impressions.
They were inventing television, and somehow through the years the spirit has carried through, and I believe it lives on this day in this building.
This state has been very good to me, the state, the viewing public of this state, and I've always been very appreciative of that.
An unavoidable concern, however, for many of television's original stars is the direction technology and society are taking the medium.
The technology alone is giving us such a choice that perhaps we're a little dizzy with the choice. Maybe there are too many options and maybe there are too many choices because we've kind of cheapened the basic product. Local is doing so much emulating of what the network or the cable network does today that I can't tell the face anymore. Bring back a few standards and some quality. That means injecting into an already good project and a good product, but taking nothing away from what you've got today, but adding something good to it.
I have one complaint about weather today. Oh, we have some nasty weather coming your way. Well, of course, I happen to love winter, but nothing about weather is nasty. It's all your attitude. Oh, they used to say that even if it's a horrible storm, Cavell makes it sound good.
It was a lot different then, yes.
Would you do it again? You glad you did it?
Yes, I'm glad I did it. It's part of my past, and it was a great experience.
Take heart, says the innovator. If you wait around long enough, everything comes back again.
There is a definite trend to more community programming. As station operators realize they've got to serve their community better, the way to do that is to suddenly start televising the live parade, doing the school fair. College night at the school, at the high school, could be a live event to be covered. These are local events, and yes, I believe that they will be covered more frequently and more often in the future.
The golden years of Connecticut television and many of its originators are gone. The images they created remind us of simpler times when local stars named Hap, Ranger, and Goober were daily welcomed into our homes, bringing their innocence of spirit and style. Ah, those were the days.
We'll see you again next Friday night on Sports Camera. Till then, Jack Conley saying good night.
That's the news. The weather is next with Bob Hines. Good night.
When I closed the show, I used to say a good sport today makes a better American tomorrow.
You know, I always was feisty and moved my hands and yelled and screamed. Well, one day a guy saw me and said, "You look like a boxer. You look like I'm in your corner." And I took that and I stayed with it. And after every feature that I would do, whether it was New Haven, Hartford, all over Connecticut, I'd say, "I'm Mike Bogoslawski and I'm in your corner."
Yes, television is a very exciting medium, and it takes a pretty large family to keep our home running right. All of us here at WNBC were really happy we could meet with you and chat for a while about what we're doing. We hope the next time you turn on your television set and allow our family of performers to visit with you, you'll feel that both families have become closer friends.
I always believed in having my pen handy in case I had to make some changes because I would hear from them, and at the end of that I would say something. And that's tonight's news. Bob Ellsworth here. Good night.
Now this is your reporter, Barry Barnes, reminding you once again, drive as though your life depended on it. It does, you know.
The kids used to have so much fun with this, to bang it around, and there we are. Only those days we had the black hair, and we're ready to go. Here we are. Happy sticks, all your troubles they will fix. All you've got to do is smile with your happy sticks. That's it.